Chapter 1. The Clearwater Festival. The town of Clearwater is a prosperous and thriving settlement of substantial size. Unlike many such places, it has long avoided being invaded, looted, razed to the ground in roaring fires by the sword, spell, or those rare roars of a mighty dragon. Generations of farming, logging, and the mining of rich ore in the mountains it nestles up against have seen to it that its buildings are sturdy, its streets paved in cobblestone, its population well-fed, and its men-at-arms well-equipped. The huge trees that grow on the other side of the mountains, however, are largely untouched, as the timber is so dense and ancient, no axe can bite into it. For this reason, the forest is known as the Iron Wood. There are hunters' trails over the mountains, for the Iron Wood is home to exceptional game, with the largest elk to the most luxuriously furred animals in the short but hard winters, where hunters make use of many ancient standing stones and tumbled piles of cut stone from the mysterious ruins located near the small villages of troll folk. Unlike many regions, the trolls of the Iron Wood live in peace and do not bother the town of Clearwater. They are even known to trade with the hunters, bartering a wealth in gemstones for smithed metal items, particularly silver arrowheads, and also as many sacks of salt as the hunters can spare. They tend to leave the hunters be in all their travels except for one place. They will allow no traps to be set, no camps to be made along the Silverback River valley, as it is sacred to them, they say. Hunters have never discovered why, as no troll goes near the place either, unless following after the hunters to remove their traps and put obstacles in their way. Another winter has passed, and now the time for the spring festival approaches. But no hunters have returned from over the mountains so far, and it is well past the point where anyone suspects they are just taking their time. The winter was not that bad, the pass through the mountains should be thawed enough, and the weather has remained reasonably calm. No word of any dragons up and about, and no word from beyond the old mines at all. Notices have been posted in the town market square, and any who have news of anything beyond the mountains shall receive a reward from the town elders. There are also notices for any healers who have arrived in Clearwater to please make their way to the largest temple within the town walls, as there are many who have need of treatments for a strange ailment. Walking through the city streets, the preparations for the spring festival feasting seem to be at a fever pitch. Excited merchants are paying farmers abundant coins for their livestock, and not just the butchers' shops and market stalls, not just a few houses, but every single dwelling seems to be actively butchering animals. The shrieks and bleats are coming from every direction as throats are sliced open with sharp blades, and so much blood is being spilled, it's actually running down the gutters of the cobblestone street beneath your feet. The scarlet pools are so fresh, they are warm around your boots as you have to step in a few, as the streets are crowded with blood-spattered people gleefully carrying the slaughtered animals or larger cuts of bigger animals from the markets or shops or their own homes to the great kitchens of the town hall, where heavy smoke, dense with the smell of fried bacon and onions, is wafting through the streets. Perhaps a mercy, considering all the other smells it must be masking. There are still dogs and cats darting around or flopped in safe spots to sleep off very full bellies. The townsfolk seem a bit manic, but perhaps all this seeming bloodlust is not the same as that which strikes some warriors with madness in the heat of battle. It is the Spring Feast Festival, after all. Notes. The start of the adventure sets the scene and lays out many threads that can be followed to investigate this situation. Investigating the bloodlust of the townfolk will reveal that they are not quite in their right minds, but not unreasonable. They seem to have just greatly overestimated how much they can actually eat, and seem intent to make this the greatest feast ever seen in the town. After a mild winter, they have a lot of livestock and prices are quite low. However, the amount of meat being cooked here would feed a mighty army at this point, and they are in danger of seriously depleting all of the livestock in the entire region. But for some reason, nobody seems to care unless you really press the point. Something is driving this strange behavior for sure, and it seems quite pervasive. The sickness in the temple is not one type, but several types of fever that has broken out, mostly the elderly, but also many children, and there are a number of them who are displaying weeping sores, like boils that leak blood all over their bodies. They are both weakened and very dehydrated from this ailment, but are very alert and proving difficult for those few caring for them to keep them in their beds and calm. The children in particular are very eager to get out and go see the festival preparations. They talk of nothing but what animals they like to eat the most. Those caring for them have found that washing them with water boiled in cauldrons with salt seems to reduce the boils, but the fevers and lack of sleep is hard to control without strong herbal broth that normally they would not use on children. The elderly mostly sleep, but they talk of nightmares, a dark shadow growing over the town. All the buildings become trees with roots that want to pull them under the earth. They try to run away, but the roots tangle their feet and the air itself seems to slow them down. They say the trees are hungry. Inquiries about the reward offered for news of the missing hunters, or anyone with news from over the mountains, will turn up the following facts. The high pass through the mountains has had a landslide caused by the warmer winter snows falling in avalanches. The pass is blocked, so either the hunters have to travel many miles around the coast and loop back to the town at the base of the mountains, or they must find a path through the old iron mines, which are said to run right through the mountains to come out the other side. The reward for news is pretty good, more than worth the cost of provisions and some time spent to travel there and back, plus a good reputation with the town elders would be worth a lot more gold in future, perhaps even a nice comfortable job with the town militia. Many townsfolk celebrate the spring festival in different ways, depends on the town. I encourage you to add some quirks whenever you get the chance. In this location, some children's game involving a creepy tale about drowning the bad trolls in the river and making friends with the wise old troll in the woods adds a nice touch and a hint of what is to come. The town of Clearwater is well known for brewing vodka from grains and potatoes. There are otherwise fairly typical townsfolk that don't get out much and are all experts on all things boring. The very idea of going out into the mountains to find out things for themselves is quite outlandish and terrifying for them. They defer to anyone who wears more wealth than they do and will carefully avoid provoking or insulting anyone who wanders around openly carrying martial weapons and seems unconcerned with the town's malicious attention. The militia know better than to bother warriors from other places, as it never ends well for them. But if they really have to, they will bring down a murderer with a hail of crossbow bolts and fetch an elder to make sure it was legal after the fact. Players should have plenty of time to get into character, talk among themselves, interact with locals, learn as much as they can, and gather any regular supplies they need for a trip into the cold mountains and deep caves of the wilderness. Chapter 2. The Old Iron Mines Entrance. Heading out of town and towards the mountains, there are many goat herds bringing their flocks down from the high country to be sold in Clearwater. They're happy to chat about the lands that they call home here in the foothills. It's a steep uphill hike along well-travelled cart tracks to the old iron mines. This is the local name for several mining operations run by different groups, but by far the most impressive, the one the townsfolk refer to as the mine, is the well-constructed and deep tunnels of the dwarves, which existed here before the townsfolk even started building the town of Clearwater below. Dwarves cut a road right through this mountain, but over time, even their impressive tunnel collapsed, almost on the other side of the mountain. Some underground spring finally found a path into the mineral seams and brought down massive boulders. However, since then, some other creatures have dug into mineral veins exposed from this event and broke into entirely unknown excavations that even the dwarves deny having anything to do with. The dwarves strongly advise anyone to avoid tunnels that come not from above, but from deep below, as whatever made those excavations has never seen the light of day. Whatever the secret passage is to the other side, only the hunters know, and they are still on the other side of the mountain. The goat herders will warn adventurers that the area around the mines is dangerous. Lots of goats and people go missing if they camp there overnight, so if they insist on going into the mines, go in quietly while the sun is up and do not delay. The entrance to the mine is the lair of a mated pair of gut gobblers, which are some sort of cave giants with very sharp, powerful claws and an incredible appetite for raw meat of any kind, particularly fresh entrails. They will shove torn off limbs and spilled intestines into their massive, fang-filled maws, even in the middle of combat. Gut gobblers have sensitive eyes and fear sunlight. They will also shy away briefly from radiant energy and are burned by the touch of holy water. Despite their large size, they do not throw rocks and prefer to attack by lurking in a side tunnel and waiting for creatures to come close enough for them to make a short dash. where they can then reach them with their long and heavily muscled arms. Gut gobblers are not intelligent enough to understand spoken language. They have a foul nest hidden in one of the mine tunnel's dead ends nearby. Their offspring have not yet hatched from a transparent leathery egg sac, floating in a shallow pool full of their parents' stale urine. Nothing else dwells in this ancient dwarven underground road, thanks to the predations of the hungry gut gobblers. The walk to the cave-in section does pass through a wide fissure in the heart of the mountain, and a huge arched bridge of solid rock soars over a dizzying drop to a red glow of molten rock far below. It will be well after sunset in the world above by the time the adventurers reach the outskirts of the cave-in area. Notes: the gut gobbler's lair will have a lot of smaller bones that a knowledgeable character can identify as those of goblins. The gut gobblers leave large piles of scat randomly, and these may contain uncut gemstones that they ate along with the goblin who was carrying them. The scat piles are large and may contain dangerous parasites. Chapter 3: The Cave-In and Strange Chambers. The Dwarven Road shows signs of goblin occupation, with roughly constructed wooden platforms and barricades, most of which have been nearly demolished, and there are large claw marks all over the place. No goblins can be found. They've been completely exterminated. The goblins dug tunnels all around the base of the caved-in tunnel, and one main tunnel cut deep enough to have opened into some strange chambers. These are very different from the dwarven style and the goblins' rough workings. The chambers are very old, full of nothing but smooth-cut stone, rounded edges, strange walls, and chambers that don't seem to serve any obvious purpose. There are stone slabs carved out of the native rock and wide staircases that lead down to a large, flooded central chamber with what looks like a round swimming pool in the middle, fed by a natural spring heated by the volcanic rock deep below. This was once the lair of some sort of strange creatures, but what the purpose of it all was is quite a mystery. They left no adornments, no other furnishings, no art, or even any markings in the finely cut stone. A round tunnel leads in the direction the Dwarven Road was headed. It seems to curve around in a wide spiral, descending down through the mountain to the lower valleys near the shore. Investigating the central chamber pool room will also reveal a dangerous artifact construct. It looks like a heavily armoured sphere with many crab-like legs and 3 pale blue lights shining where the crab's mouth would be. If awakened by a disturbance in this chamber, it will slide back an armour plate to reveal a magical red radiance that can control the mind of a person who looks into it from within 20 feet or so. This iron construct is very old and well beyond any human technology. The red light that shines from within can instantly entrance a person who looks into it. Their thoughts seem stolen away and they are drawn to approach the machine. Though it will not harm anyone who it has under its control, it will lash out at any creature that attempts to damage it. The red light is obviously coming from a deep red, very large ruby cut with very fine facets, which time and wear have loosened in its housing, so as the construction moves, the red light will stutter, giving those enthralled by it a chance to break their gaze and its control over their mind. The ruby can be removed if further damage is done to its housing, but if the machine senses this attempt, it will slowly start to close the protective armor plate to seal the ruby inside and target the creature that did the damage for extermination, actively hunting after them. Though it is large, old, and fairly slow, it is untiring and relentless. The curving tunnel opens out into a natural chamber in the broken foothills on the other side of the mountain, where a natural spring of warm water flows out to join the stream cutting through a fairly steep-sided canyon. A lush abundance of unusual plant life thrives in this canyon and on the stepped hills above. Old stone ruins and ancient monolithic standing stones can be seen, along with the thin campfires of the local trollfolk. This is the mouth of the Silverback River, the place the trolls regard as sacred ground. Notes: the iron construct is a general construction tool created by an eldritch species of the world far below the surface who feed on the brains of sapient creatures, so they designed it also to capture live thralls to bring back to their lair close by the surface world. Clever players can figure out how to lure the thing out of the tunnels by attacking or stealing its large ruby and having it chase after them. Its behavior is programmed and predictable, but it can make basic logic decisions such as stop if an action will damage the ruby and release captors from ruby effect to conserve energy if they are not harvested within 24 hours of arriving in the pool chamber. The iron construct powers itself by consuming quartz from the rock tunnels it makes. The gold found inside the rock is surplus to its needs, but it contains a minor fortune in gold pellets in a storage container that can be accessed from the ruby housing compartment. It is very tough, and damage will likely immobilize it, but destroying it ultimately would require dropping it into molten lava or pouring metal-dissolving acid into its inner workings. Close examination will reveal that it contains metallic centipede devices that crawl around inside it, making repairs. If interfered with and removed from the iron construct's armoured carapace, the centipedes will attempt to burrow into the chest of the nearest living creature and inflict fatal damage to its heart. The centipedes can only function for a few hours outside the construct before running out of power. The Silverback River is heavily enchanted thanks to many years of ritual bloodletting and animal sacrifices performed by the local trollfolk shamans. The troll blood, the warm spring water, trace fluids from the pool chamber, and the otherworldly energies of the Feywild in this area have combined to spawn an unholy monster of eldritch horror, a blood beast. The water also causes the bloodlust and urge for brutal violence to be greatly enhanced in any who drink it. But while immersing oneself in the water, even up to the knees, will cause any wounds to bleed profusely, it also doubles the efficacy of any healing effect. Chapter 4. The Blades of the Blood Beast. The warm waters of the steaming hot springs form a lazy mist that flows and drops down a series of short waterfalls, where the various hot creeks all merge into a much deeper pool. All around this pool are what at first appear to be giant, tall, thin mushrooms. Still, as the mist swirls, they reveal themselves to be the flower stems of giant flax plants, each topped by a severed head. Most are now bare bone, but many are still decaying skulls of animals, people, forest folk, fey creatures, and one or two giant skulls are simply wedged into the rocks around the pool. Not one troll skull can be seen among them. Nearby, human voices are shouting with great distress, pleading and screaming for their lives. They can't be seen, but must be just downriver a little way. Perhaps below another waterfall. It's hard to hear exactly what they are shouting. The sound is echoing off the canyon sides. The pool is not silver at all. It appears to be a deep scarlet red and seems thick, steaming from the spring water fed into it. It's not clear why it would be this deep red color, but something is very wrong here, and the place is steeped dark fey magic. On the other side of the pool, before it plunges further down the canyon, large stone totem poles stand with grim and violent effigies of the troll's forbidden gods. From the center of the pond, a clotted mass rises slowly from out of the scarlet water and the clinging mists. It is writhing with malformed tendrils and globular anatomical features of both a troll and some sort of great predatory dragon. Long tentacles begin to break the water around it, rising and splitting open with sprays of blood, revealing glistening fangs, emitting low, echoing hissing sounds, releasing the internal heat of the blood beast from deep in the massive horror's body mass. No part of its anatomy makes much sense. This is something that is violently mutated, or perhaps a significant accumulation of cursed blood, trying to become 2, perhaps 3 different creatures all at once. As eyeballs surface and snap open on various parts of it, they catch sight of the adventurers. It starts to twitch and spasm in reaction, parts of it being flung away from the central mass to slop into the water or splatter onto the rocks around the pool. But moments later, smaller, more distinctly humanoid forms rise. The stringy clots twist and move with a life of their own, and like a vine they reach up along the flax flower stems to the decayed skulls, flowing and twisting around them, forming quivering limbs and dragging soiled clothing and what you hope are uncured animal skins onto their squishy red bodies. And finally, as their deep eye sockets sprout baleful red eyes, they reach down and pluck razor-sharp human rib bones off the ground, brandishing like translucent ivory blades. The bloody substance of their body seems to accumulate on the head, forming something like a blood jelly red cap. Notes: the water is enchanted with dark fey magic, as mentioned. Anyone in contact with it will bleed profusely from wounds and heal twice as fast as usual, even through magic. The redcaps and the blood beast do heal wounds quite quickly, but are vulnerable to the touch of anything made of iron, including the large iron construct found in the ancient chambers within the iron mines. If the adventurers figure out the danger of the Silverback River, they can double back and lure the iron construct all the way into the blood pool, where it will do terrific damage to the blood beast, perhaps enough to destroy it. Rescue of the hunters is the objective, so adventurers may attempt to flee from battle and get through the redcaps, charging down the short waterfalls, rapids and lush vegetation to get to the lower area the hunters are being kept. Hunters are in a poor state though, and have had the tendons on the back of their ankles slashed deeply. Not enough to sever the tendons, but they will be unable to walk for weeks unless they get special healing. They will not speak of their ordeal, but will react with murderous anger if they catch sight of any of the troll folk, who they say knew what was happening to them and did absolutely nothing to help them. Creating a circle of salt around any person or object will stop the redcaps or blood beasts from crossing through the salt, as it burns them like acid. However, they can throw things, and the blood beast's more tentacles can reach over to attack, so some caution is still required. Pouring sacks of salt all over a section of the iron mine passages or underground road will also slow them down, but they are capable of reducing themselves to blood ooze form and moving along by clinging and flowing over the walls or roof to avoid the salt. Unless the blood beast is destroyed, it will continue spawning redcaps and use them to go and raid the town of Clearwater, bringing back captives and spilling all their blood into the Silverback River. The reason the trollfolk pour their blood and the blood of other creatures into the Silverback River is that, unlike the aggressive bloodlust it provokes in other creatures that drink it, trolls experience a reverse effect. They lose their regenerative healing, gain a diminished appetite, and lose their highly aggressive primitive drive that has prevented them from developing a culture, tool use, art, and family bonds. The ruins found all along this region of the Ironwood Forest and the Silverback River are from ancient times when they had a civilization of their own. The trollfolk shaman will not reveal the truth of how the blood pool was created in the Silverback River. They will accept torture and death rather than speak of it to anyone. Intense study of their culture and the ancient ruins' carved images will reveal one important standing stone has been deliberately removed and buried under the shaman's dwelling. A secret passage down to the chamber that contains it reveals an image carved into the stone of a red dragon killing unicorns and trolls and throwing them into a steaming cauldron of huge size. With the blood beast destroyed, hopefully, the troll folk will inevitably revert to their primitive predatory behaviour once again, becoming a great threat to any who would venture back into the Ironwood Forest. The townsfolk of Clearwater will return to normal as their drinking water loses its contamination, though they will face a winter of not much but vegetable broth to eat, thanks to killing far too many of their farm animals.